It says I'm live. Hello, y'all. Am I really live? Let me check and see. Let me check and see if I am really live. This is my first time going on YouTube Live, y'all. And it did not ask me for my stream key. So I want to make sure. Oh, there I am. There I am. Okay. Look at that. Would you look at that? Hey, y'all. Happy Tuesday. I am live. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. So you can hear me, you can see me. Let's give people a second to come on in. I'll go over some announcements. I'm excited about tonight. This is my first YouTube Live, so this is good. This is exciting, y'all. I'm Taylor Chandler, licensed marriage and family therapist and personal development coach. Tonight, we have a live conversation with a special guest, Vernique Esther. She is a licensed clinical social worker, an Atlanta-based therapist, speaker, and thought leader who specializes in relational trauma and healthy relationships. She's the author of When Seasons Change, a divorce recovery interactive devotional, and creator of the viral framework Trauma Languages. Vernique uses her platform to empower high achieving Christian women and couples toward wise decision making in life and love, and illuminating them towards a healthier perspective of their faith. That's good. That is good. Let me throw her Instagram header up, y'all. So there she is. Definitely check her out. Vernique Esther on Instagram. And we're going to bring her on in just a moment. In just a moment, let me just set the stage for us, because what are we doing tonight? What are we doing tonight? We're going to be talking about a couple of different things, y'all. Namely, well, we'll start here. Vernique got here because she left a comment on one of my reels. I get a lot of different kinds of comments, and some comments really stand out. And I really appreciate when someone can push back on what I'm saying and is willing to talk about it. So Vernique accepted the invitation. I'm going to show you her comment in just a moment. And we will review the reels together that I've put out. I mean, I've been on social media for some years now, but these recent reels we're going to review that are particular about Black women. And what's going on, some research and some thoughts. So, that's the really high level view. We're going to really get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm going to go ahead and bring Vernique on, have her say hello, introduce herself, and then we'll just dive right in to the content. So Vernique, welcome, welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, appreciate you being here. I'm so glad. Oh, am I? Hold, Vernique, I'm sorry. I'm messing up our intro. I'm
What's
messing
up,
up our
bro?
intro. This is what it is. This is what it is. I don't have my lights on. You see what I
Oh,
mean? I don't have my right. I don't have the lighting right. Exactly right.
okay. I'm used to your blue. You be setting the mood.
Yeah, I like the blue. I like the
I like
blue. And
it.
I kind of wanted to put, I kind of thought about putting another light up. Maybe I will later. I don't know. If the lighting's good? But anyway, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Listen, in this economy, your girl got a job and another job. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to be here with you all tonight. I am looking forward to this conversation and I'm feeling good. Taylor, how you feeling?
Good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I've got my second win, my third win of the day. Okay. They're long days.
Okay. I'm
But
already
I
knowing.
feel like a third win. Speaking of second and third jobs, we had, there was, I know you know what comment I'm talking about, that made a direct reference to defects. Okay. Can you be really clear? Let's This is about clarity today,
No,
y'all. We
because
are
let's
not
let's
here.
do all the clarity.
Okay. Let's get very clear. Can you just what is social work? Because that we some people don't know, and there's obviously some misconceptions. So can we just start there? Tell us what a social
Yeah.
worker is, and can you give us an idea of what it is that you do on a day to day?
100%. So, social work is actually a vast field that is rooted in social justice, advocacy, supportive work in a myriad of fields and environments. And so we have micro, meso, and macro, which is kind of an all-encompassing term, these terms for all the spaces that we can be in. So we can be one-on-one with you, especially clinical
Mhm.
social workers. So I am a licensed clinical social worker. I operate in the capacity of a therapist. I went to
Mhm.
therapy school. I went to a clinically based program that focused on micro and meso, did some macro, but I knew
Mhm.
that I wanted to work with people one-on-one, but also have impact in larger spaces.
Mhm.
I have colleagues who have done everything from policy work. So we're in policy work, looking at how systems and environments can be better impacted and supported through social work, right? Through advocacy, social justice, etc. And I've had people who've been in corporate spaces. I have worked in corporate
Mhm.
America on the medical side as a social worker. So I have never stepped foot in DFACS. I do have some colleagues that they got
Mhm.
scholarships through that in order to, but they were in leadership positions. Also, just as an aside, before I keep going,
Mhm.
while I understand the Black community's relationship with DFACS, I guarantee you don't want to live in a world without it. Because
Mhm.
while your experience may have been problematic in how people have dealt with it, there are a lot of people who have rescue stories and who would not be where they are today because their environments were harming them. And so somebody spoke out, and then these agencies were able to support and pull them out. So I've had a few colleagues, like 4 max, but a majority of us have gone to the medical field. I've worked in currently I work in mental health tech. I also have a private practice. A colleague of I used to be a director at a nonprofit. I have a colleague of mine who works for CSWE, which is a governing body. We are anywhere and everywhere. And like I said in that comment, on your worst day, a social worker likely
Mhm.
was advocating for you and supporting you, whether you knew it or not. So
Mm.
that is social work. It's
Okay.
so big, and I love my field. And we don't snatch babies. We not just out here stealing.
Yeah, yeah. So people see, look, people get really wild in the comments,
I'm
okay?
trying to tell you.
And that's why I'm so, and thank you for the clarity around what social work is. It's and someone just put in the comments, she said, "What's DFACS?" Can you
Yeah.
just briefly?
hmm So in a lot of places, DFACS is Department of Family and Children Services. In other places, it's DCF, DFCS. There's a lot of different acronyms, but basically the entity that governs children and family services, anywhere from child abuse to food stamps. DFACS handles food
Mhm.
stamps. They also handle just other initiatives and making sure that children and families in general have safety and the resources they need. So a lot of the times,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't know this, but their number one goal and purpose is actually reunification,
Mhm.
and for the child to stay in the home in those cases. And they are supposed to do every effort to ensure that, but sometimes it doesn't work, and they do have to remove those children. So they manage the adoption and foster care system as well.
Mhm. Thank you for the clarity. Y'all,
Mm-hmm.
tonight is about clarity. And again, a lot of wild stuff happens in the comments. I've been on the online space for a while, and the bigger it gets, the more
Yeah,
crazy it gets.
for sure.
So that's why one of the reasons why I'm so glad that you agreed to join me for a live discussion, because a lot of stuff happens asynchronously, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not in like real time.
Yeah, yeah,
And people can get the wrong a lot of times people can get the wrong idea
yeah,
about people get the wrong idea about me all the time. And you saw today, people get the wrong idea about you quickly.
yeah,
And these conversations or disagreements or differences of opinions aren't often brought together to see, like, well, is it gotta be a fight? Like, it's not always.
yeah,
A comment is a very much like a stamp, and we don't see the actual, like,
yeah.
integration of
Mm-hmm.
the conversation and what can actually come out of that. So I'm really appreciative of you joining us for this.
Yeah, thank you. And if I can add to, like, and I
Mhm.
think this sets the stage for where I come from in this conversation and where I know me and you are aligned, is that I think social media, especially right now in where we are sociopolitically, environmentally, has become kind of a trash bag, like where you can just throw
Uh,
things, and not everything that's in a trash bag is truly trash, right? But it gets contaminated. And so I
mm,
think that even when we people can have the best intentions, but I think that people come to social media, especially social media comments, to get off things that they normally wouldn't say in polite society, to kind of vent and to voice their frustrations and like whatever they think. And I think a lot of people don't think they'll be seen. And so I just want the piece that I want to bring from this is, me and Taylor have never had an argument. We're not fighting about this. We have already
Mhm.
discussed some of our divergent viewpoints to a small extent, but what we have in common is our love and commitment to the Black community,
Mhm.
point blank, period. And I feel
Mhm.
comfortable saying that because I have followed you and in our conversations, and we both care about Black men and Black women. How about that?
Yeah.
We actually want the advancement and to perpetuate better ideals, values, and decision making, so that way people can actually come together in a healthy and holistic way. The
Come
ways
on.
that we get there and we view may diverge, but the purpose and the goal is the same. So if you enter
Mm.
this conversation and you're
Oh,
looking for a fight and you're looking for who's right and who's wrong, you're not going to find that, because my goal is not walk out of here as a victor. My goal is to walk out of here more informed and having given and the information that I feel called to give, right? And to receive. And so for those of y'all talking about this is the biggest thing since Clarissa Shields and whoever else, haha, and chill out. Okay. For those of y'all who
mm.
are like, don't back down, you know what? I'm going to yield in this conversation, and Taylor's going to yield in this conversation. And both of us are still going to have our degrees, our intellect, our morals, our values, and everything else that we came to the table with at the end of it. Amen. All hearts and minds
Okay.
clear.
Look. Set them up. Set them up.
I'm
Okay, I
just
appreciate
saying.
that. Yeah, yeah. Don't back downs and the all that. It's a lot of that. And it's funny, to me it's sometimes funny, but sometimes it's a stretch. And some people are very serious.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think, the idea of healthy discourse is so like foreign at this
yeah.
point. So I
Yeah,
think just that alone, that we're willing to do this, I think is just a positive thing.
for sure.
Without further ado, let's get into some of these diverging viewpoints, because I agree that we both really, really care. And I think that it's cool that people who really care can come at something in different ways and might have different ideas about what it takes to maybe fix a certain problem or what caused a problem or how we should be looking at it. And I definitely don't believe that I have all of the answers. And I don't want anyone to start looking at me like I have all the answers.
Yeah,
Like,
same, same.
it's a whole picture. And when we get too narrow in our own viewpoint, not only do we miss good information and important information, we become, y'all, this is very important. We become really like prejudiced, and we
Mm-hmm.
become hateful, and we become unlikable people when we get too far into our own camps, as if there aren't many other different perspectives and different experiences in the world, even if it doesn't fit your own or my own. So I just think it's really important that we make it a practice to see how other people think. And it's very likely that the way that someone thinks differently has something in there that can help you sharpen your own iron, or create a better picture, become more or a more holistic picture, or be more compassionate.
Yeah,
So that's really important. That's really important.
absolutely.
So let's get into first the comment, because this is what brought you here. Let's do this. Let's do this. Uh-oh. Yeah, here we go. So this was where I found you. Not literally first found you, but this is where I found you to try to bring you on to this page. So this is what you said. You said, "I hate this is happening," because this was on this was where Dr. Tressie had replied to put a comment under my thing. I replied in a reel. Now we got this thing going on. She said, "I hate this is happening." But I will say, I not only respect but revere Dr. Tressie. And if y'all haven't seen that reaction video and all that stuff, is all up there. We're not going to review that tonight. But she said, revere Dr. Tressie. She's not new to this. She's true to this and an advocate to the core. I also respect you, even though I don't always agree with your premises. That said, while I doubt she takes the time to discuss this live, she may surprise me. I do think there's room for reflection when it comes to how we discuss and interpret Black women's experiences. I don't think you've ever lied, but I do suspect sometimes your lens is skewed a bit, which is what a sociologist is trained to push back on. I also have a BA in sociology and anthropology. Food for thought. Okay, very well. Anything you want to say off rip, off the comment? Any context you want to give?
No, I said what I said, but I think that the way that I came across this, by the way, I was minding my own business. I think I was like eating or whatever, and I'm like, I thought I had whiplash for a second. I was like, I was like, do they know each other? Like, it was just so confusing. So then I had to go back multiple comments, you know, to be like, what's going on? So when I said I hate this is happening, that was my real time reaction, because I was like, no, like, I hate that this is how this discussion came about. I went through some of the comments and I just hated the environment of it. And I am not actually going to comment on Dr. Tressie herself, because I really do respect and revere her. So, but I did know that she wasn't going to get on no live with you. Like, I just, you know, after following her for the time that I have, whoever said, I said, okay, real quick, because I'm trying not to read the comments. I am very direct. I'm originally from New Jersey. So, and I'm also like, I think I'm kind of funny. So I just say stuff because I think it's funny. Y'all can't take everything to heart. I did say what I said. And for me to see a comment of mine and be like, oh God, I can't believe I said that, is nonsense. Like, and it's foolish. I did say these words that you were.
I said what I said. It came off a little bit edgy. That's
it was
what
a little
it is.
edgy. No, because you were like, do you want to add any? There, I have nothing else to add. So, okay, let me, and I am a little edgy. So I'll take,
yeah.
Let me take the edge off. Let me take the edge off. I did say, I did mean these words. I do not have additional context other than how I came across the conversation in general. And that threw me off, because I was like, what's going on? I didn't even know this was happening. So the intersection with which I saw it, but I do stand by what I said, that I don't think any of the statistics that you were saying, and I am I'm also West African and Caribbean. So
listen, y'all
do got a little
spicy. It's very hot.
Okay, very, very spicy. But I do
very hot. And you got that New Jersey hot.
Yeah.
Very hot, cold.
But I do have the Southern belle in me. I've lived in Atlanta most of my life. So, you know, I do come with a lot of kindness and sweetness, I promise. But all that to say, I do stand by that I don't think you've ever posted something or given a stat and it was false. So to me, it wasn't about falsehood. It's about the way that we look and interpret data was my point about it. It wasn't necessarily about, oh, you're lying, this is not true. Right. So that's not where I was coming from with it.
Right. So like what I took the stats to and what I said kind of meant, which we're going to review the real, y'all. I'm going to pull this up real quick. Anything that I want to say about this? Yeah, we're going to leave Dr. Tressie out of this. I think enough has been said there. I will offer, looking at how we're discussing and interpreting Black women's experiences. We're going to talk about kind of a lens that could be skewed a bit. Is there any way that you would describe, before I put up this first reel, are there any words you would use to describe the lens or the stance that you think that I kind of taking?
I'm glad you asked that, because I wasn't even thinking about that, but it was mentioned several times in your comments. Like, people were really offended by my use of the word, I suspect your lens is skewed, of the phrase rather. I made a comment under that because somebody else had said something, and I said, we all have biases. We all have skewed lens to some extent. Now, I already know by saying that somebody is that is a setup for somebody to be like, well, then your lens is just skewed. Fine. But we're going to present both sides and allow for that discourse and parsing out. One, you shouldn't take wholesale what anybody says anyway. Nobody. I say that to my platform. Stop just taking wholesale what people say on the internet, because you can trust me and I believe I'm trustworthy, but you should always scrutinize through your own lived experience, but through other sources, what is truth. right? So that is work that we should all be doing. But the skew, to me, I think that, and we might be going too far with this, but based
Mm,
off of a lot of the content that I've seen, your platform is more supportive to men. And when I say supportive, I don't mean that derogatorily. I don't mean
mm,
that like that's a bad thing. My platform mostly supports women,
mm,
right? So same thing. So I find sometimes, and I'll use me as an example, that when I see things at times, I may have a natural reaction because I'm an advocate for Black women, but I take a moment to be like, is this factual? Is it true? And is it fair, the assessment that's being made? If the assessment is not fair, then I feel like I'll jump in and comment. But sometimes people say stuff, I'll be like, ooh, like how they say, if you can't say amen, say ouch. And
mm,
I think on your platform, because your heart seemingly is geared towards men and their well-being, I think that when you look at data, you're looking at it at time, at least the data that I have seen you sparse through. So I can't say that that is just how you view data. But I think that sometimes it can be skewed to align with your beliefs, supports, and experiences that men have had. And this is, I will quote Dr. Tressie on this when she said, that some like we can take things from data that is not necessarily what the researchers intended. And so we look at data like the marriage rate, which I can't wait to get into, by the way, the marriage
yeah,
rates between Black men and Black women. And we're like,
mhm,
they're at 34%, we're at 27%. Black women are the least likely to get married. But that is numerically correct, but
mhm,
it is not statistically and qualitatively the full picture. So when I say your
mm,
lens is skewed, it is because your passion leads you to potentially, right? I'm not
mhm.
making an accusation, and I'm giving all these disclaimers, not for you, girl, because I know that you get it. But I think that when we are passionate about a demographic, everything could potentially lead towards what we want it to say in support of them, even if it's not.
Mm.
It's not like when people read the Bible because based off of their beliefs
So
and what they want the Bible to
you're
say.
kind of saying it's like almost like confirmation bias. You know,
Yeah, similar,
I
similar.
I have never set out to support men.
That's
I
interesting.
I never it's never I have this conversation, like I actually have these conversations offline with people who know me in real life. I'm like, I never um set out to do that. That is literally not it's not in my intentions. What I think, um what I think I do is I talk about like I call it reality. Now, this is where it gets dicey. That's why we got to break some things down. I call it like I really feel I really believe I'm on like the side of truth. Like what is reality?
Yeah.
And especially, so particularly I deal in the area of marriage, family, health, and wellness. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I was in the fitness industry for 10 years, personal trainer, group trainer, health coach, fitness nutrition specialist. So all of these things are like, these are like my four pillars: marriage, family, health, and wellness. And when it comes to these areas, I really do think, and I want to see where it could be truly like it's off, but I really do think that where most men, let's see, the issues that we're seeing in marriage, family, health, and wellness, most like the problems in those areas, most men seem to be able to see it, and they're able
Mm,
to be like, yeah, that's it. Like if we could just get this together, like we would solve these problems. And most women seem to not see it. And so I think that that is why my content, and this is a simplified way of saying it in a nutshell. I think that's why some my content seems geared to men, because I think men are more able, likely, and willing to be in the truth of the things related to marriage, family, health, and wellness.
yeah. I actually really understand what you're saying. Um, I will also add that because somebody mentioned, I wish I could hide the comments because I don't want everything we talk about to end up coming from the comments. But somebody said quantitative versus qualitative, and yes, I think that we need good research is both, right? It is lived experience, which I know you are big on. I'm gonna say of men because what how you are perceived may not always be how you intend to be perceived, right? But the perception, you have a lot of qualitative data on men's experiences, and I have a lot of qualitative data on women's experiences. And
You mean,
while
wait, what do you mean? Like, where's the qualitative data?
I think you had mentioned something about like when you talk to men, they're saying these things. They're talking about women's weight as an issue in dating. They're talking about, I'm saying like you have
Okay.
been in spaces where you have heard a lot of qualitative information and experience, like men's experiences. That's not true?
Okay. I definitely have heard a lot of stories about men and what they prefer. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that what you were just saying is that the data confirms what you're saying. And so it seems that like your
Okay.
platform is not supportive, specifically targeted towards men, but the
Mm-hmm.
quantitative data looks that way. But I still think that there is
Mm-hmm.
room, like just, I was trying not to jump ahead, but if we're looking at, let's say specifically marriage statistics, 34% of Black men are married, or are, yeah, and 20, what is it, 27 or 21%? I think it's 27% of Black women are married.
Mm-hmm. It's somewhere between
From
24
a,
and 27.
you said what?
Like between 24 and 27. It's like,
Yeah, something like that. I threw it, just left my head that fast. That seems like, see, because Black women are the least likely to get married, if they would do the like giving, and I'm being facetious what I'm about to say, but
mhm.
um thank you. Yes. Numbers don't lie, interpretations can. And while, and you're not a liar, girl. I didn't call her a liar, y'all. Um,
Mhm.
but when you look at those numbers numerically, quantitatively, there is a difference, and that means that we should pay attention to it. But qualitatively and from a lens of just statistics overall, that is negligible.
Let's
30, dang, I keep throwing away, huh?
I was gonna say let's just play the tape.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Let's
Let's
go.
play the tape and
Women.
see.
How do I know we're the most single? Black women are the most single, and we have the biggest women. How do I know we're the most single? Real quick, y'all, here are the marriage numbers. Among all US adults, 49% of women are currently married compared to 53% of men. 27% of Black women are married, 49% never married. 34% of Black men married, 50% never married. 31% of Black people married, 50% never married. I'm reading all that for the record. I want you to focus on this one
So we can pause right there. Is any Let me just play
stat
the tape.
today. 27% of Black women are married, 49% never married. Okay, just focus on that stat. You compare that to all in the United States, like 48% of all married, or of all people in the United States are married, and Black women are 27%. That's a huge difference. And we're going to focus on body and the way that that impacts this number today, although we could talk about other things. Most men want a woman they are attracted to, who could.
See, now that's qualitative, y'all. Just so you understand, like that wasn't based. That's not based. That's what qualitative is. That's like based on what men say in general, or that I've heard. Okay, most men. So that's an example.
Carry and care for their children if they choose to have children. They want quality of life and know that being with a woman who is not physically fit will greatly impact that. Your health is wealth. So being unhealthy, too fat, too big, okay, effectively makes you broke in that regard. I'm making the simple argument that if Black women were more physically fit, their chances at marriage would increase. It wouldn't solve the whole problem. Again, the attitude and mindset need to match up. Too many Black women, 8 out of 10, are at least over a normal weight, or are at least overweight and can even get into obesity. If you want to account for some of you with a whole bunch of muscle, okay, let's take that down to 6 or 7 out of 10. I will give that to you for the sake of the argument. It's still too much. That means that more than half of you, let's say 60 to 70% of you, are actually just too fat, are actually just like truly, genuinely overweight and obese because of fat on your body. Are y'all following me? Too big to fit, generally fit what a man, especially a high quality man, are we talking about someone with good character? We're talking about someone who, yes, is financially able to support you and the family. Yeah, I mean, men who want to get away from providership in a traditional sense, you're not the man for this group. Okay, just like women who don't want to care about their body, you're not the woman for this group. Okay, other groups, fine.
So there's a lot in there, right? That's almost 3 minutes, and there's a lot in there. Where should we start? What might be misinterpreted? Should we go even here? That 49% of women versus that are totally married in the United States compared to 27% of Black women. Could you help us to understand how that might be? Give us a more maybe clear picture.
So on that piece, I would like for us to talk about that when we talk about the socialization between white and Black folks. So I'll save that piece. But when we're looking at, I think I wrote it down. So the 27% of Black women versus the 34% of Black men, those are both. So again, statistically, comparing them to one another is practically irrelevant. That's like saying, I finished a race in 10.5 seconds. You finished a race in 12.2. We're both fast, right? Like those statistics are poor compared to the overall like American stats. So we can't just look at that and say, well, they're the worst. That's the lowest number. That's statistically, like from a research perspective, that's y'all, I'm not going to overly police my words. I'm sorry. It's statistically like disingenuous, not because that's your character, but more so because that's not the most important part of the data that you're looking at. The most important part of the data.
Wait, let me just make sure that I understand what you're saying. You're saying that we say that 34% of men are married, 27% of women are married. That's like comparing apples to sharks?
No, I'm saying those are both low numbers. Black men and Black women are both doing poorly in the marriage market. They are.
But you can't say that one is doing poorer than the other.
That doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to say.
What? Okay,
that doesn't matter.
Continue.
The reason why let me not say it doesn't. It's not like it doesn't matter at all, because they're both poor for different reasons. The reasons why the statistics are poor matter. But saying that you law, I got a F, you got a F minus. We both failing. You know what I'm saying? So
okay, I hear you. I hear the argument. I don't think it's a good one, but I do.
That's okay,
hear
and
what you're
that's
saying.
fine. But yes. I want to give you some of what from my experiences and what I am seeing in the field, and even from some statistics and data that is coming out now. Well, let me not say statistics, from data that is coming out now, research that is coming out now about how men are showing up in the marriage market, and how the dating market is shifted right now, and in whose favor is what. That's the part that I want us to talk about. But before, so I know that it seems like it doesn't, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter at all, but I am saying that it is less relevant than the fact that as a whole, Black people we suck at getting married, and we suck at staying married.
That's true. Look, that's true, y'all. That's true.
So with that, I don't think that we can just say, well, whoever has the F minus gotta do more work to make sure that that them and the F pluses get to an A plus, because that also is not going to work. It is not just on Black women. The reason why, by the way, men are leading at 34% is because they are more likely to date outside of their race. I'm not going to tip too far into that. I'm not going to put any that's right or wrong on that. It doesn't matter. The evidence shows that Black women are most race loyal, period. So if they can't find love with Devontae, they're not going to Kurt for the most part, right?
That's kind of racist.
I know. I'm okay with it. But yeah. And Devontae is a great name. My elementary school boyfriend's name was Devontae. He was a good guy. But that is why, that is the difference. And by the way, I'm gonna just throw this out here. If the and not if the marriage statistics between Black men and Black women are the worst and the divorce rates are highest, however, the next worst is Black men and white women. So in the best chance statistically that men have, if not with a Black woman, is actually, I think, Spanish women. They tend to fare a little bit better. Also, Spanish women don't play that. So going back to that, the men are more likely to date outside of their race. You can have your reasons for that, but it still doesn't change the state of Black marriage. It still doesn't change the fact that we are struggling to get together. So when I'm talking about coloring data and how we interpret data, see, I found a way to not look at the comments, and now you bringing them up.
Yeah, look, we do.
That's fine.
You do.
That's what I mean when I say the data seems skewed, because from a larger statistical lens, again, the F and the F minuses were both failing. So let's talk about how we both can be held accountable and come to the table to do better. Because I don't believe, and I'm going to pause right here, but I do want to talk about how we characterize obesity and fatness as a key cause. But I'll stop.
All right. Well, all right. Thank you. Is it fair to say that Black men might marry more Black women if Black women dealt with some of the issues that I've kind of talked about, some like weight and attitude?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, we can say that. And because we're here to have a discussion, okay. I think that some Black women, or many, I'll say, like, what my algorithm and what my conversations with single Black women look like is they're also just opting out altogether. Black, right. And I've heard that Black men are doing the same, but Black women are like, there are things that need to be addressed among Black men for them to feel safe and comfortable within the dating market themselves. And it has to do with the emotional wellness and as well as some of the philandering behaviors of Black men. And we can go there because I have.
Whoa. Hey, let me back you up now.
That's fine.
Back you up now. Okay, so you said a lot here. You said a lot. We're gonna have to we have to do a reaction video to this, Vernique. But I'm
right here. You could just react. Look,
it's
why
so
you
much. I can't keep track. And you made 8 different points. So look, you made a big thing that you said was that essentially everybody's failing. So let's not. This is not your word for word, but it's almost like let's not look at the F minus because we already got an F. I mean, could you see how that's like it comes off as like a sidestep of accountability of seeing like, well, what is going on with Black women? And so, because kind of like, well, everybody's failing. So, I mean, hey, what are we going to do? But instead of saying like,
that's not what I said. I said everybody's failing. So we both need to see what we have to do better. That's not a sidestep. So that's a call for accountability on both sides.
Did anybody else hear it like that? I mean, it kind of sounded like it was evening it out. When it's like, no, there's definitely a group doing worse.
Right. And my point is that the worst that you're talking about is, it has not just to do with the F minus. It is both. When I talk to Black women about why they're single, it's not because they're fat. Nobody is like, and for those of you who don't like fat women, you just don't date fat women. So why aren't you dating the skinny, more whatever Black women that you can have access to? All of us are not fat. So I'm like, when I'm talking to Black women, they're saying, well, the issues that I'm having is I can't connect with him emotionally. I don't feel wanted. I don't feel like, or not wanted, but I don't feel like he's being consistent, right? Those sort of things. So why is it that because that 27% exists that I can't say, and plus also, yes, there are issues with Black women, and we can talk about them right here today. We can talk about attitudes and things like that, because I don't disagree that they exist. But I do think that by saying that because you're worse, if we deal with you, everybody else will be better, that's not fair. I don't think that's fair.
I didn't get that last part. If we dealt with you, like if we dealt
with you. So if we deal with the lowest statistic, that'll bring everybody up. What I'm saying is, we deal with the 2 lowest statistics because they're the ones trying to get together. Black men are not showing up to the dating market as healthy as they could be, and Black women are not showing up to the dating market as healthy as they could be. And we need to address both of those things. That's all I'm saying, and I think I've been saying that.
Yeah, you definitely, yeah, you definitely been you absolutely been
Why is
consistent
that
with
a
your point.
sidestep though?
Because it's like you're evening it out, like where everybody's kind of in the same boat, but everybody's not in the same boat. Black women are doing like kind of like noticeably worse in dating and relationships.
By 7%? 7% is noticeably worse?
I
What's
mean, we're gonna get.
noticeable about that?
I mean, we're gonna get to the baby mother reel too.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it seems kind of like noticeably worse. But
7%. Like if you did 7% better than somebody, you would be like, but you both got an F. You would be like, "Ooh, thank God I passed."
well, I don't think it's all about kind of like who's getting married either, which is
Okay.
why we
What is
have
it
some
about?
other kind of like markers. I
Okay.
mean,
Tell me the mark.
like so in marriage, family, health, and wellness, I think Black women are doing kind of are like doing like noticeably worse um, than Black men. Now, there are definitely, I agree with you that that Black women and Black men in general are just doing poorly in marriage. I think that is really obvious. I think that's really obvious. I think the sidestep, the perception of a sidestep comes from like when we put everybody in the same container rather than saying like, okay, this group has some particular issues that they're bringing in. Black women have some particular issues that they're bringing in general, and Black men also have some particular issues that they're bringing in general. I mean, we like
That's the
money. We're
same
going to
thing.
be
You just
talking
said
about
the
money.
same thing. I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not a sidestep. That's just being clear about what's happening. But
Mm-hmm.
Black men are okay. Black men are doing 7% better than Black women in the dating market. And by the way, I'm seeing that comment of like, but that's millions, right? In light of 500 million people, like again, you can't just look at numbers and say that that means something when we're looking at a grossly large population. Like this is where we can get where we say, well, the data, the statistics, but what you think
3.8.
3.5 million means in a population that's 500 million is not what it means statistically. Now, qualitatively, in your one-to-one experiences, we can discuss how that impacts you. If you live in a city or a state with a lot of mean and fat women and you have no prospects because of that, then your experience and how that 7% impacts you is a lot more than the rest of us. But for those of us who live in a pretty aggregate, like, there's lots of, I'm not gonna say lots of options, but there's a mix, right? Where that 7% versus this percent versus that exists within, like, it's all mixed in. I don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that for you. You should move. You really should move. If that's all you have access to, your dating pool sucks. So, but the rest of us that live where these populations are pretty much represented, what I'm saying is that is not like, we cannot just say that that is the biggest problem. That is the only problem. And if that was, if Black women got skinnier and if Black women had less attitude, then we would all be better. And that's just not it. That's not it.
I would like to see. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Here's the thing. I live in Atlanta, right? We have a crazy amount of single Black women here. And Atlanta is known for being the BBL, small waist, whatever capital. A majority of my friends who are single are not overweight. And now this is a personal experience, right? So again, I'm getting qualitative here, but their issues are not, and the men that I know who are single, their issues are not, oh yeah, it's just all these fat girls around and I just can't find a good mate. They have other issues. They're saying that that women's perceptions on finances is an issue, which I don't disagree with. Women's perception on what a man should be doing for them is out of pocket. I agree with that. But it's not that they're fat. And if they were a lot of the time, huh?
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's qualitative, y'all. But especially if she's fat, I gotta be real. Especially if she's out of shape.
What is out of shape? Can you define that?
I'm gonna finish the sentence. Especially when she's out of shape with demands. I'm telling you, it's a different experience when you look better. You're
I
not going to get the same kind of pushback from men. You're not.
I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. I think that our society is what's the word? I don't want to keep using the word skewed, but our society values skinniness, right? Thinness. That is a overt quality among men and women, no matter your race. I think that American society values thinness, period. But I do want to know from your lens and from what you were getting from the data, what for Black women does it mean to be overweight?
That totally depends on the person. So we're talking about height, especially height. The height is big. So I mean, there's not
Is
one
it
weight.
BMI? Is it percent? Like what?
So
Where? What is the data?
BMI does give a good general snapshot, but a lot of people don't like that. So especially because
It's
there are
inaccurate.
limitations to it because like Black, for example, Black bodies tend to have higher muscle mass. That doesn't mean that every Black body has higher muscle mass, but does mean that it happens more often than with other bodies. So, for example, like that can throw off the read of the BMI. So, body fat, like how much body fat you should have on you. If someone has, for example, like 30% body fat, whoever they are, they're too fat. So, I mean, depends on depends on the person because the body fat percentage. So it's like you got to know how much total mass you have, and then we got to do some division in order to get that. So there's not one number of for overweight.
Yeah, I wasn't asking for pound. I was asking for what you said, the qualities, right? What would somebody be considered overweight? I think my concern with that is my whole life, numerically and statistically, I would probably fall in that category, but I'm not fat. I'm not. And my weight has never been a barrier to a relationship. And most people that I know, because in Black culture, thicker bodies, and somebody said people are calling themselves thick, but they're clearly fat. I'm not even talking about that. I'm not going to stand up and show it to you, but I am like thick, right? But I'm also, I'm only like 5'5". But because of my body shape, the way weight, yeah, I'm not doing that. The way weight shows up on my frame is different than somebody who might be my same height and weight, right? Which is essentially what you were saying. It matters and all of that. Numerically, though, according to BMI, whatever, I'm always going to be considered overweight because I have thicker thighs, but I'm absolutely not.
Well, I mean, everybody should just check their body fat percentage. That's a good way.
Right. And I don't know how to check all of that, but well, I do, but the barriers to even getting that, you got to go to a gym that has all this stuff. But my point is
really easy. It's really you scales now. You can get body scans with a scale just in your house. It's a lot easier than people think.
But my point is, I think that Black men don't like what would be conventionally thin. On average, let me not talk about a specific Black man watching this, but on average, Black culture celebrates slightly thicker bodies, not fat, but slightly thicker. But what might be on paper fat, if we're talking about the data, when a Black man walks around in the world, there are technically fat women that they would still be attracted to, either because of how their weight is distributed throughout their body, how they dress themselves, how their face cards look. So for me, that's why I'm questioning how big of an issue is fatness for the average man. Are they just walking around like, God dang it, I can't find a skinny girl at all? Is that what's happening? Is that why this is statistically relevant or qualitatively relevant?
I think let's just ask the chat. I think, because I think the answer is yeah. There are really men who are like, I cannot find, I hear from them every single day. I cannot find women who are fit enough, okay, healthy enough. Too many women are overweight. So y'all can just drop in the comments a 100, like literally just 100. If you're a man and that's an issue for you, drop a 0 if that is absolutely not an issue. It is not a problem.
Yeah, and this is me asking to learn because I genuinely have not heard that.
Get it. You get it. So, okay, a 100 if it's difficult to find a woman who has a body fit enough, not overweight, not too overweight. A
Like it is a
zero,
barrier to you
it's a
finding a partner.
barrier. Like you not you, it's a barrier to entry for you. Okay. Zero if it's just not a thing.
And while
Zero
they're
if
doing
it's
that,
just
can
not
I
a
just
thing.
say one thing about that?
Okay.
Because when you're talking about health and wellness too, what I notice is we're talking about the physicality, but on average, we have an issue with Black men going to get medical attention and going like, and I'm not trying to sidestep the point, but what I'm saying is the health that we tout as what we claim to be an issue seems to only be aesthetic and not holistic, which is kind of my just a side point of like that's interesting to me. And I'm seeing the 100s. Y'all just can't find no average sized women.
Why y'all got
Everybody around you
90?
is like,
Why
okay.
y'all got 90, 78? Oh, you
I
had
think they're trying to say
two.
kind of.
You guys had two. See, y'all gotta be, y'all don't follow the instructions. Well, we got to continue on here. We got to continue on here. This is an ongoing discussion. Okay, we've heard a lot. Let me go back to this reel and make sure we don't miss anything.
Married compared.
Okay, we got the thing about comparing the men to women. Vernique said everybody's failing, so nobody.
Did. And I do stand by that. We're all failing. We all suck.
Okay, there is definitely something to that. There's stop tearing everybody, different people down. Everybody needs to get better. Okay, how about that?
Okay, effectively makes you broke in that regard.
Okay, so that was my argument that men once women they're attracted to and who would be healthy enough for
Or at least
pregnancy,
out of
carrying the child in a healthy way. Too many Black women, 8 out of 10 are overweight. And what do you think about that, real quick? What do you think about that statistic? 8 out of 10 Black women overweight or obese.
Yeah. So
Is that real?
on its face, that's problematic. And
Okay.
I am not the fat girl like spokesperson. I feel like I'm not the best person to talk about what that experience is like because that's not been part of my personal experience. But from a statistical sociological lens, that's why I brought up what does overweight mean? Because most Black people that I know probably fall in that category, including me. And a lot of us are not fat. Like I work out on a regular basis. I eat right, all the things. Like I am a healthy weight. I have muscles, all that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm like, what does overweight mean? Are we measuring that to white like standards? Like to what white women on average look like and how their bodies feel out and look? Because if so, then that statistic to not you, but the statistic is skewed and doesn't account for a cultural
the cultural difference. Yeah, and I think that's why the qualitative stuff matters. Like it matters what people are saying because if the stats are based on BMI and we're like, okay, BMI does not account for these curvy, thick Black women who are not overweight. They're working out, they're still showing up in the overweight or obese categories. Well, then I think it especially matters then that we pay attention to what people are saying, what men are saying. If they're saying women are too big for me to take seriously for a relationship, and we can't, and you're gonna throw out the, I don't want to say you want to throw out the data, but we understand that BMI is often looked at with a side eye because of exactly what I just said. So it's like, okay, if we can't look at the BMI and someone doesn't want to, and everybody doesn't want to go buy a scale to get their body fat percentage, and I'm willing to come and clip with the body, we can come and get measurements if we need to, but if someone's not willing to do that, then I think we need to listen to what people are saying. There was something it's all right. There was something I want to make sure that we touch on because I think it would be wrong of me to skip over it because it came up so much in the chat, and then we're going to move on to the next reel. But something you said, or something that I see people kind of had an issue with in the comments, was bringing up Black men when it came to why Black women are not married. Like it was because we heard you say things like Black men aren't showing up to dating as healthy. You also said that about Black women, to be fair. But what do you think? I mean, from your perspective, what is the relevancy for you? Why is it important to bring in the Black man? Because I don't think it's necessarily wrong, right? But I think that to be clear for people who are like, why is she talking about Black men if we're talking about Black women being single? Like, can you help us understand the relevancy?
That's so interesting because my understanding is that Black men are saying their rates are what they are because they can't find non-fat Black women, and so
No,
they're
that's not.
pivoting
Well,
to
that's not
other
it.
rates.
That's not all of it. It's
Yeah,
also, especially like at the attitude is huge. The attitude is like,
right. And even with that, that is you saying, well, that is Black men saying they're not married because Black women's attitude and they're fat. And I'm saying, well, Black women are saying their experiences with men and their emotional immaturity is a big piece as to why. I think we're doing the same thing. So it's not about me mentioning Black women. You're telling me about Black men's experiences and how they experience Black women. And I'm telling you how Black women experience Black men. Now, if we want to get to let's line them up and like accountability on both sides, I can tell you as a professional what I think Black women need to do better. And we can talk about what black men need to do better. But if we're talking about, well, they're saying if we're doing the finger pointing, I'm telling you what the data, what the experience is on the other side. That's not me pointing out Black men. I'm doing what y'all are saying your issues are.
okay, let's talk about this one.
Attitude that Black women in general have about being the most single and the most overweight is this, and quite frankly, crass attitude that Black women in general have about being the most single and the most overweight is, in my opinion, more alarming than the stats themselves. Who gives a F? You should give an F. And I'm going to give you one reason why, among many, which I will be reporting on shortly. One big reason has to do with money and the life that will go on as you age. Black women, single, college educated, at age 60 and older, carry a median wealth of $11,000. In contrast to Black married women, $424,000. White unmarried women, $384,000. That's how the stats were laid out, y'all. So what does this mean? Simply put, it means you will age poor. You are not going to have any money. So the life that will go on is going to be rougher than you think, and more people are going to be crying than you'll admit.
What do you think about that? Median wealth, $11,000, age, Black women, single, age 60 and older, college educated, compared to, I think it was 424,000 for married Black women, 384,000 for single white women. What do you make of that?
I think that it's sad. I don't have any pushback on that. Like I don't think I am on the side of marriage is a pathway for Black folks to build wealth. Now, from a sociological standpoint, but well, let me not get sidetracked by the comments. Hold on, let me turn them off. Okay.
No.
From a sociological perspective, there is something, and it may be an outdated theory, but it used to be called the feminization of poverty, meaning that women, not just Black women, but women, this is an old study. It's from like the 80s or 90s or something like that. But the theory was a feminization of poverty, meaning that without, like, as a single individual, women are more likely to be impoverished if they do not marry, even in less than ideal circumstances. Now, with modern shifts and changes, which I know a lot of men are upset about, I've seen a couple comments on past posts of yours and even of mine about how, well, you know, women were able to get access to all these things, and essentially now it was F men. And we can talk about that. And I think that there's, again, more sociological content and context to add to that. But I do get it. I think that women have entered a space where we have access to wealth in a way that our prior generations did not, due to certain policies and opportunities and all these different things. And in some ways have, I don't know, I think in some experiences, and I'm gonna actually lean on, because I'm what's it called, humble enough to do this. When I've talked to my male friends, they're saying that the attitudes that Black women that have access to more money, maybe some wealth, has like shifted how they engage in the dating market. Fair. I will not take that away from anyone. But I do think that while those statistics suck, they are changing, and I think they're ever evolving, and Black women are having more access to wealth on their own. Now, having wealth and maintaining wealth are two different things, but the average Black male household is not that much better. So this is why I keep going, and it's going to seem like sidestep, and I'll get back to the point, but I don't think that Black men are doing so much better in the market right now. Now, that may change with some of the things that are happening administratively and politically, but to get back to the main point, I think that sucks, but with historical and sociological data, Black women's wealth and portfolios and things like that are improving. But marriage, I think, would help us to generate more wealth and to do better long term, as long as policies and socio-political and socioeconomic environments improve, right? Because we're also susceptible to those things as opposed to white households. Because on the face of it, and I'm gonna land my plane because I know I'm talking a lot. On the face of it, we're doing poorly, but it's not just because we're not married. It is also because of systemic barriers and all kind of things. Especially right now, we can talk about the federal government firing hundreds of thousands of people and all these different things. It will always hit Black women and the Black community harder than white folks because of how the system shows up. So we can't sidestep the impact of the system, like the white centered system at work in America.
Okay, so that's definitely going to sound like we're blaming white supremacy, and I understand, like we had to acknowledge the barriers, okay, but I think also, we know that money, it's more likely, like you said, to build wealth through marriage. Like that's still like it's like the most tried and true kind of way system. So I think that's really important, right? Even though we can say, okay, well, people can make money in different kinds of ways. Well, yes, but when you say that, do you think that negates marriage at all? Like, do you think that undervalues or undermines marriage at all? Like when you say that?
No, I don't. That women are having more access to things when I say that?
Yeah, when it's like, well, women are making more money than ever, and the numbers aren't going to be this way, for kind of for long, because women are going to be making more money. They're already making more money, and so it kind of sounds like an undermining of marriage.
No, I don't think so, because, and I'm actually really glad we're here. I think that the double speak that happens between why aren't these women submissive? Why don't they just want racism is a thing, y'all. But anyways, I was talking about the comment. Why we want women who are supportive, that don't just see us as, pocket providers, like all this stuff. But then when we talk about women building wealth and not wanting you just for, like, marriage has to be more than providership, then it's, like, y'all are making more money and now you trying to da 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 da. While I can acknowledge the attitudes potentially that come from that, I don't think that me saying that Black women accumulating wealth means that that's an undermining of marriage. I am a perpetuator of, like, I want people to get married. I want Black people to get married. That is my whole platform. But I think people should start, in light of the current and modern circumstances, I think people should consider why they should get married outside of wealth collection. I think that we need to consider that, yes, building wealth is important generationally and foundationally, and we should do that, have those conversations. But I also think that a marriage is more than how much money both of you make, because people are still getting divorced and they have higher net worths or whatever the case may be. I know people who have gotten divorced and they're splitting mad assets. The money didn't keep them.
Okay. But money is
I don't think it undermines marriage.
Money is like a really big deal. Like, as a social worker, what kind of things have you seen impact people as they age and they don't have enough resources? What kind of things do they have to rely on, like, from the state?
I don't think that that's like, I'm not saying that marriage and building wealth and money is not important. What I'm saying is marriage has to be built off of more than that. We can't just say we got to build generational wealth, let's get married. I'm saying that we need to, like, while resources and things are like, women have more access to those things now, their main reason for getting married is not going to be simply to build wealth, even though it is an avenue to pull resources together. It has to be more than that for Black women today to want to be married and engaged in relationships and things like that. Money is important. We all need money. We live in a capitalistic society. I have money. I have assets. I think that those things are important, and I want somebody that is going to allow us to continue to do that, right? I want to be with somebody that we can build wealth together, but I also want to be with somebody who has character at the end of the day and has like the emotional stability and the values that I'm also looking for. So we can't just hinge on, we got to get married to build wealth. That's what I'm trying to say.
Got you. You know, I think you're definitely being clear in your points. Definitely give you that. Big Op, the answer, yes. I was on Crucial Convos. I'm going to be with him tomorrow. This guy right here. Y'all go follow, subscribe to his channel. I'm going to be on his podcast tomorrow. I don't think it's going to air tomorrow, but we already have something up together. And on that, I think it was with you, Coach.
Can I speak to that comment though that you have up right now?
Right after I finish this, right after I say this, Kojo, I think I was with you when I said, why can't two people, was it you, Kojo? I said, how about two people get together just for money? Like just to build, right? Just to build, because some people need that. Some people need to be able to learn how to get along and learn how to build their finances together and do what a whole lot of other cultures do. Because I think it's interesting, you know, there obviously has been a romanticization of relationships. And I think that you're right, Vernique, that a lot of people won't, like, it's not just money, right? They're, like, just the idea of building generational wealth isn't enough. And I think maybe we should wonder, why not? Like, why not have that be a goal? So, you know, I don't think necessarily right or wrong, but I do think it's interesting, as I think you're right. A lot of women aren't going to go for it unless there's this, a lot of this emotional thing about the marriage, right?
Yeah.
This emotional attachment. Do you think that there's a difference? Because we got here because of this reel here. Let me come back to it. I'm going to remind you, everybody, what was said.
Black women, single, college educated, at age 60 and older, carry a median wealth of $11,000.
Do you think that there's any difference between a woman growing older, 60 plus, $11,000? Because you said, like, you know, Black men aren't doing much better, is what you said, right? Do you think that there's any difference from a social, cultural perspective? Is there any difference, in your opinion, between a Black woman being 60 older with 11,000 and a Black man being 60 older, $11,000 in wealth?
Yeah, I think the difference would be that Black women do a really good job at building extended community. They tend to be less siloed. They have more friends. They have more extended relationships that they connect with, to include men at times. I think women are very resourceful in that way. And so I do think that it would be a difference because they would have communal support. Now, I do think that the man with the same economic standing might have more privilege in the sense, and I know somebody's going to get triggered by that word, but more privilege in the sense that, like, I've seen somebody re-enter the job market when they didn't have enough of finances, and it was a little bit easier because men are trusted a little bit more as they age. Like, men are within the job market, whereas women are age out of the job market after a certain amount of time. So I do think that there is a difference in that way. But I do think that, like, we cannot rely on, because you mentioned something before, like government assistance, stuff like that. I don't think that we should be relying on government assistance, and especially not now. But I think that, you know, it would suck for a Black woman to
Mhm.
exist in
Yeah.
that economic state. But I do think that women are really good at having supportive connections.
That's definitely a thing. There's a kind of, I don't know how recent it was, a Forbes article about Black women being disproportionately kinless, so without children and, as they age. And I think that in that same article is talking about the that exactly what you're talking about, that Black women are more likely to create families outside of their own blood. I do wonder about, so clearly that's real. That's a real thing that happens. I do wonder, I have to ask you the same question. Do you think in any way that undermines marriage, and kind of like, does it in any way undermine, uh I don't know if undermine is the word, but it almost seems like there's this, it's like another kind of safety net, which I don't think safety nets are bad, like inherently, right? But if you think let's say plan B, let's say like it's a plan B that can kind of seem to like supersede a plan A. And by plan A, I'm talking about like marriage and family. And I wonder, like, when you think about, okay, well, we could just build our own, women families. Do you think in any way that's affecting like women's desire, motivation to do what needs to be done in order to get married and have like a blood family?
Potentially, but I also would say that while I am an advocate for marriage, that it shouldn't be marriage by any means necessary. And to go back to the comment that was posted below by the gentleman, the idea that, and I'm gonna go scroll back and find it because I thought it was really key to the point that I'm making in light of this conversation. But I think that it can't be, well, in the 50s and 60s we didn't care about all that emotion stuff. We got together because we had to get together. Well, thanks be unto God that we no longer have to get in these types of relationships for
Mm,
survival. Like,
mm,
why is it that we want to have captive audiences for in order to increase our marriage rates? The fact that I can love from a place of wholeness makes
body.
any relationship that I get into, and by the way, I am in a relationship. He's watching y'all in the comments, so don't be mean. But being in a relationship with somebody because we choose to be there and our wealth goals are aligned and our perspective on marriage is aligned and we both have emotional maturity, that to me is so much more full than being like, well, let's just get together so we can build a wealth portfolio. And that mindset to me harms men more than it would a woman,
Mm,
because you all deserve healthy and holistic and emotionally stable love too. You guys
mm,
deserve safe spaces in women. And I think when men lean towards that, right, and they say like, well, it's just, masculine men, we don't think about that. Da, da, da. No, masculine men are still human beings with emotions too. We all have this thing within us that desires to love and to be loved. And
mm,
so I'm not saying that it's easy for you. I'm not saying that, the conditions are right or imperfect, because it's not. But what I am saying is hoping and praying for us all to go back to the 50s is not going to solve the problem. You deserve equitable, loving, non-specific to just how you provide, because provision and finances is important. But why are we so dead set on it's about logic, let's just be why don't you like coming home and having a woman that's excited to see you? That's emotion. Don't Aren't you excited to not just have kids and just have somebody pop out kids for you, but to be a father, to be ingrained, to teach these children, to father with the mother of your children in a way that feels good and feels safe, like the ways that we saw in 90s TV? Why do we not think that that's valuable and think, well, we should just be building wealth? Y'all need to get it together and get married. Or we don't do it by any means necessary. We fix what's going on within our community. We also fight back and insulate against the systems that have made it hard for us to get together, because that is a real thing. Racism structurally and systemically is a thing, whether you believe it is or not. And while a lot of us, myself, and I'm sure you, Taylor, included, have surpassed those barriers in a lot of ways, they still exist. But y'all should want to be loved beyond the logic.
Hmm. Yeah, I do agree that a relationship that is emotionally connected and full, to use your word, is much more fulfilling. I also think that there are so many people that need to learn how to build their finances with someone. And actually, I dare say I would say there's probably a segment of Black people that should even prioritize that um, over the emotional connection. I'm not throwing out emotional connection. I love emotional connection. Okay, I love it. I wish everybody could have it, and also just kind of like being real, being, I guess, almost like pragmatic. This is what I'm saying is very pragmatic. When I was talking to Kojo about this, I was like, what I'm saying, it's like fantastical. There's not going to be two people. They're very unlikely that two people are going to do this. Although they do it in other parts of the world, and marriages were like this long ago. So it's actually not this crazy idea, but now it is in modern times. But it's definitely still happening, and it's happened before where people prioritize the finances more than the emotional attachment. So I think that it's an interesting conversation. I just think it's a discussion. Like, I don't think it's about throwing anything out. I do think, though, we've got to get clear in the Black community about priorities. I think that's really important. I do think that materialism and vanity have just overtaken more enduring values and like qualities, and the things that are really important tend to get superseded by things that aren't quite. Like, someone might hold out, for example. I think this is related to this part of our conversation. Someone might hold out on being with someone, a woman especially, because he's not financially set yet, right? Whatever that might mean to her. And I think that I really want to do a series on building while Black, about like the realities of that, like what does it mean to actually like build that? Because I think that that's largely missing. I think the education on that, and even like the practicalities of that and the pragmatism of that, isn't often talked about. Any last thoughts on that before we shift to the next part of our conversation?
We can keep going.
Okay. Let's go. We're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go to the dating, and then we'll go to the dating one about Black and white dating. Let's take this one off. Appreciate y'all in the comments and your engagement. Let's see what we got here. Is this gonna play? We had this issue, y'all, before, so let me go to my plan B.
At the Black women are the most single, the most overweight, and the most baby daddies. Is that true? Let's look at the National Vital Statistics report showing that Asians born to unwed mothers are at 12%, white at 26.8%, Hispanic 54.2% of kids born out of wedlock, Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders 52.8%, American Indian and Alaskan Natives, you're way up there, 68.7%, and Black children born to unwed mothers at 69.3%. Almost 7 out of 10 kids, y'all. We do not just have a single mother problem, and this is not just about the optics. We have a failing children issue, okay? You gotta think about the kids. Like, children born outside of wedlock are more likely to experience poverty, emotional instability, academic challenges, behavioral issues like delinquency, aggression, and impulsivity. The list really goes on. At this point, denying or minimizing that this is a problem is not just negligent, it is actively harming the Black community.
All right, so obviously there's a lot of conversation about single mothers, and I think there's more conversations about single mothers than there is about the impact that actually has on the Black community. Curious to know, you have any thoughts off rip with this issue?
I have thoughts. I'm just trying to formulate them because, as per your audience, anything I say, I'm just deflecting towards men. So I'm just trying to figure out how to say what I know and what I have experienced and seen in the field, and it be received as best as possible. And I am a person who values not wasting words to the best of my ability. So allow me a moment to reflect.
Sure, sure.
So I don't disagree with that statistic. I think that it's known that single black women like are pervasive. Um, I do think that when we look at that connected to the marriage rates, just because women are not getting married at high rates similar to their counterparts does not mean that they have stopped wanting to be mothers. So I think that the desire to mother sometimes overhauls or leads, especially in a society where they feel like, you know what, I may not get married anyway, so I might as well have the children that I want to have. Having a child and wanting to have a child is not, it doesn't go away just because you're not married. The next part about this, and luckily for y'all, this has nothing to do with men at all. A majority, statistically, Black women are most likely to be celibate. Shocking, but they are. When we look at, and I know we're going to get to the whole socialization piece, but when we look at who is having the most sex, it's not Black women. Okay. It's not. When you look, there's a platform called Call Me Daddy. And I was watching the documentary on her, white lady. I was watching a documentary on her and like her road to like this live show. And I remember her just talking about how much, I'm trying to find a clean word, but I mean, she was doing the most in college sexually, right? Now married, multi-million-dollar platform, all this kind of stuff, right? The way that Black women are raised when it comes to relationships and sexuality are around what not to do. They are told, do not come home pregnant, don't date, don't talk to boys. And so when they have more autonomy and they get older, because they were taught what not to do and were not taught what to do, how to protect themselves, how to make sure that you have access to contraception and things like that, the same way little white girls are taught, they get into the dating market. And because we all have hormones that be telling us to do stuff, and once we get grown, I don't know if anybody in the chat, woman wise, is 30 plus, but them hormones be hormoning. And then they get in these situations, whether it's relationship, situationship, some dude they met at the bar, they're having unprotected sex. They're not on birth control because, especially with religious programming, because the Black community is more likely to be religious, which, by the way, for white folks and other demographics, religion is a factor in increasing marriage rates, but for Black folks, it doesn't. Which is something I talk about a lot on my platform, and I won't touch on it here because there's a whole lot there. But when you add on the religious factor, Black women, even though they have the desire for sex, they see it as demonic and horrible and whatever, and so they're not taught sexual health and sexual education. They get with men and they end up pregnant, whether it be because they was out here doing stuff perpetually, or because, one or two in college and next thing you know that they were pregnant. So again, I think that statistic matters and it's important. But I think the conversation that's also not always had in this is the fact that Black women are not always taught to protect themselves when they are having sex. And I'm not going to argue about whether or not having sex is right or wrong outside of marriage. I don't even think that necessarily matters, because other demographics are doing it at a higher rate. But Black women do not often protect themselves. And it's alarming because it leads to other things outside of just pregnancy. Why can't I be honest about what am I lying about? What was I supposed to say? Black women are having babies because what? Yeah, I don't know how. What am I supposed to say to that? What would make me not be lying? Black women are the most single moms because they're out here just giving it up. Is that what I'm supposed to say? that's not to you specifically. I'm looking at the
no.
accountability. You're not, what am I not paying? I just told you statistics and I told you qualitative data. That is the answer that I have, but I don't know what answer y'all are looking for. So help me out.
I think this would be, this feels very almost like personal experience, like based, I think, from people in comments and you. I wonder, like, is that what's happening right now, y'all, where people are saying like, well, this is my experience of what I've seen with women. Like, I saw women going wild and I saw women over here that were scared of having sex, but these women over here were going at it like I might well say. But is that kind of what's happening? Because is there any, Vernique, I don't think you need this, but I'm asking, are there any like numbers that you're thinking about when you think about like who's being celibate, who's not, who's actually active, who's not? Because I think what people are experiencing is I think they're gonna be perceiving another sidestep of like, well, women are choosing to have these relations and then choosing to have the children.
So Black women want to be single mothers, by and large. We just love it. Is that like they're saying that their experiences are that we want to be single parents by and large?
But I mean, I think one of the first things you said here was that sometimes the desire to be a mother supersedes the desire to be married. So if that's true, then you're kind of saying, yeah, some people, to your point, you're kind of saying, yeah, some women just want to be moms.
And a lot of Black women are not taught sexual health. The only reason why this is a problem, it's not the only reason why it's a problem, but when there is a visible problem, we don't think about what other ways the problem could be avoided than just don't do it. White people are having sex. They're having it at young ages. They're having it perpetually. They're getting wild in college. They're having sex, and they're on birth control at 14, 15. And their parents give them condoms. And they go to schools that talk about sexual education. Black women do not have those experiences. I was not given a sex talk. If you are a woman in the comments, I want you to drop, can I parrot you? Mm-hmm. I want you to drop a 100 if you were given a sex talk. I want you to drop a 0 if you were not given a sex talk. But I will, babe, can you grab my book? The Marriage is for White People book. Beloved, my love. Can you grab the Marriage is for White People book over there? There's a book with statistics. Get my partner to grab, but I'm also going to see if I can pull it up. But Black women are most likely to be celibate. And I'm going to tell you where that research comes from in real time. Because I'm like that even with scripture. When I talk about scripture, the Bible says da 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 da. Y'all gonna have to Google it, right? But for the sake of this argument, I'm gonna see if I can find the exact research that talks about celibacy in Black women. But if you have anything else to say, you can go ahead, and I'm gonna get that for you all.
Okay. Sex ed. Because are you including like people who had sex ed classes?
Sure. Yeah, I'll include sex ed. Why not?
Okay.
I'm primarily talking about at home because sex ed class is just a few weeks, right? But how you are socialized around sex matters too. But let's put it all in there.
Okay, so y'all, let's start over. If you already answered, you can answer again. We're gonna start over right here. Okay, right after Arshawn's comment. Okay, 100 if you had a sex talk, including sex ed in school. Well, wait, Vernique, you said you more so at home. So which one you want to do?
More so at home, but okay. I'm going to let's just put it all in there.
Okay. So if you ever had a sex talk, sex ed in school, okay, talk at home, 100, 0 if it never happened. Gosh, I don't know what y'all's 50s mean. Like, it's 0 or 100. Which y'all say? If you put it,
I think they're trying to say kind of a little bit or something.
Okay.
Because I guess the quality of the talk matters too. But God dang it.
Okay, so we have some zeros in here. We got somebody who got somebody out of 50. I don't, they got half the conversation. 0. We got a 0 here. Okay, we got a lot going on here. We got 100, 100, 100. We had those zeros. We had 100. Manya, hello. Good to see you. We got hundreds, hundreds. Okay. Oh, 100. So, because your thing here is like, because we got here because we were talking about children out of wedlock. Okay, who have the most, and Vernique is highlighting the lack of sexual education as to a primary cause of the single mother.
Because and a lot of these white folks that end up getting pregnant, they're taking their kids to the chop shop. Sorry, that was a very not good term for that. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It's okay. I was looking at the skippings here. I'm not trying to skip anybody. It's too much going on. Y'all can look at the chat. I don't need to put everyone up. Y'all can see the chat. Anyway, continue on, please, Bernice.
Right. But there is this book that I'm reading that I really enjoy. And it's talking about, and it was written in like 2011. So it's talking specifically towards, millennial women. It's talking about the low marriage rates among Black women. So, and it's written by a Black man. But I'm trying to find the stat, y'all, and I was trying to just Google it, but it's in this book, and it talks about how statistically Black women are more likely to be celibate than their counterparts. And again, that has to do with religious programming and ideology, which is not a bad thing. But again, when their hormones be hormoning, they start having sex. And I don't think that for anybody who disagrees with me, I'm okay with that. But I also want us to be realistic about if Black women exercise more sexual health, right, by simply using condoms, using birth control, would it be fair to say that would decrease the single parent rate, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, most Black single mothers are also poor, which also talks about the lack of resources and education that is prevalent within even that category.
That is real, right? Because without education, without proper education, people are going to make less wise decisions. So I think that's relevant for any topic area.
Yeah. I don't want to just keep looking at this. You can believe me, not believe me, but it's places. And if I find it, I will send it to you, screenshot, and then you can share it with your audience at a later time.
Okay. So Black women are the most celibate. That sometimes you're saying the hormones be hormoning, and then some things start happening. Also, the education is not as prevalent. We did see a lot of zeros in there. We saw a lot of zeros in the chat. So I think that that's clearly a relevant point. And I think that this is important, y'all, because it's important for a lot of reasons. And we're going to move on to the very last reel in just a moment. But one of the reasons why I think this is important is because single mothers really have at this point, it's like, there's prejudice and discrimination against like single mothers at this point. And there's a lot of ignorance. Because ignorance is at the root of prejudice. And sometimes we think because we're Black, we can't do prejudice because we think that's what white people do. But prejudice is like having like a big negative bias, like against a group. And it develops into hateful rhetoric and then even hateful behavior. And so when we're not educated about where a problem comes from, whether you like the answer or not, okay, whether it's your experience or not, when we don't have education around different people's experiences and what led them to make certain kinds of decisions, anyone can develop develop like blatant prejudice towards a group. And that's no good. You can have, for example, the value of having children within wedlock, right? Fine. But then when we develop a type of an extreme, or even, I'll just say extreme view or prejudice or hate or hatefulness towards a group just because they're not doing something the way that you think they should do it, that becomes a problem. Like you can hold your values and your convictions while also not like degrading another group of people. So I appreciate you bringing some light, in every area that we've talked about so far. But single mothers particularly get a lot of negativity, and it's not just somebody was reckless. Okay. That's not the end of the end of the story. That's not everybody's story. And there's a whole lot of other factors that go into how someone can end up in a certain kind of position. So thank you for that. Anything else you want to share on that before we move on to the last reel?
Just one thing, because in the comments I think somebody said it's cool when it's your first and second child, but beyond that, I don't know the statistic. So if you know it, please share it with me. But I don't know that a majority of Black single mothers have more than 2 children. At least that's not, and this is qualitative, this is experiential, I'll say. This is experiential. Most of the single mothers that I know do not have more than 1 or 2 kids. So the idea of, the welfare queen with 7, 8 kids and 15 baby daddies, I think that's not, that I don't think that that's as prevalent. It's a thing, but I don't know if it's as prevalent among the single Black woman category as it seems. But I somebody mentioned as well with that, like, well, we're talking about white people? Sorry, it's moving so fast, I've lost it. But anyways, I think that when we're seeing the multiples, again, we're talking about a specific demographic, like among impoverished Black women. And those are not the women most of you on this live are dating. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but if we're talking about like who would be in your category of eligibility, I don't think that that's the largest portion of this demographic that y'all are mentioning. Am I wrong? And like, I'm asking, am I wrong to say that? Like, do you know of statistics that say that there are more single women, single mothers with 3 plus 5, 6, 7 children?
No, I don't. And I kind of got lost where we were at.
Somebody was saying that that excuse what I said about programming and upbringing, that excuse holds up when it's just 1 or 2 kids, but not when it's multiple. And I'm like, well, I don't think that is happening that prevalently, where single Black mom, like, I think the singleness and the parentingness is the point, not how many kids that they have. And I think that my information that I provided still holds up for the majority is what I'm trying to say.
I think that you're making your point clear.
And yes, abstinence, but they categorize it as celibacy. Sorry, somebody was trying to say, are you talking about celibacy? They're categorically it's celibacy, but I know they're talking about abstinence overall in conjunction with people who have never had sex. So we're not just talking about virgins. I'm not saying that more Black women are virgins. I don't know that data.
I have I typically don't spend this much time talking about where things come from because we get caught up, I think, in the weeds. That's how I like to talk about, and I'm glad we are talking about this. This is really important that I bring this conversation to the content, because I don't spend a lot of time talking about where things are coming from. I'm just like, this is what it is, and this is what needs to be done going forward. So I do think there is a place to talk about how things got here. But then I think, and I want to know truly what your opinion is on this, Vernique. Like, do you like talking to people about like in all of the different, like how you can all be diced up and spliced up, and this person got this thing going on, and this person has the poverty thing going on, and this person, they just got reckless with it. Do you find the conversation about why people have certain outcomes to be valuable, and why? Because I often don't find value in coming and talking about it. And I think that that's one of my blind spots, honestly, because I'm like, I don't care how you got here. This is what it is, and this is what we got to do. So I don't spend enough time addressing the systemic issues. And I think that that's obvious, like in my content. So I want to know, like, what help people like me to understand what is the value of figuring out, seeing where things are coming from.
So I don't think that talking about the, source, the etymology, the genesis of something is the most important part. I think that without solution oriented, I'm a very solution oriented person. I know you are as well. I don't think that we can talk about that without discussing solutions, which I don't think we've gotten to yet because, or gotten to, and maybe we won't, but, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think that I enjoy talking about it and providing solutions, because if, you know, when firefighters are investigating arson, they're not just like put out the fire and then walk away. They search for what started the fire. Can it prevent the fire? No, but it does tell us what do we need to do foundationally to build this building better, and to ensure and to identify, is it the owner of the building that didn't know this? Is it the way the building was built, so it's an architectural issue? I think that pointing out the genesis of something does help us get to a better solution, because as we have seen, telling Black women that they're fat and have a bad attitude is not going to lead to us getting more marriages, right? But it does get, like, from your platform, it gives a foundation, like, okay, well, this is the issue. Well, let's talk about how we can improve that. And the solutions that you provide have to do with health and wellness, right? So I think you do that, but I don't think that, you know, I think some of the context that I have provided today, some of it, I think gives a little bit more foundation to grow and build solutions off of. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a nutshell, it's like both things are necessary. It's like put out the fire and also figure out what is causing the fire, so that when you're going forward, you create a structure that doesn't create so many fires, doesn't blow up.
Yeah, and somebody said calling men broke and dusty doesn't help either. And I haven't done that. And I know you're not talking about me, but I haven't done that once, because that is not my intention. My intention is not to bring down Black men and to tell them that if they don't do da-da-da-da, they're going to be single and alone forever. I don't care to have that sort of rhetoric. I do think that highlighting issues and blind spots that Black men may have is important. We can't get with you without you getting with yourself. You can't get with us without us getting with ourselves. I feel like I've been consistent with that this whole conversation, but I do think that we do have to have those discussions. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. So no, we shouldn't be talking about y'all just dusty and broke. I don't think that's fair. It's a response. It's a poor response to the issues that we are experiencing.
And you know, I'm gonna be real with you. And the other, I want to say this. It says nothing new with what you just said. I want to address just kind of like the general thing. I want people to realize that people in comment sections are often not the most thoughtful people. I don't have a statistic for you, but I think it's kind of a thing that a lot of sometimes in the comments. And the reason why I say that is sometimes like the people who are really thoughtful and thinking are usually just like watching and listening and observing, and they're taking things in. And they might say something here and there. The reason why I say that is I want people to understand that when people are watching this replay and you're seeing people in the comments be away, and I'm talking about a lot of different types of people in the comments right now. When you see people like be away, it can make you think that that's the, I don't even want to say majority, or that like most people are thinking like that, but there really are people who are thinking when they're hearing this stuff. So I just want to say that that's kind of like a PSA. I just zoomed out for a second because I want to address that. People will kind of see, you know, things in the comments, and not everybody comes to conversation like this in good faith and actually wanting to contribute in a healthy way. Some people are truly determined to stick to whatever they're going to believe. They've got what we would call like a fixed mindset. Like they're not really trying to grow. They're just trying to be right and double down. And so I just want to say that as a PSA, little commercial break for people who see those kinds of things in the comments, because that's not everybody. Some people just want to talk.
Right.
But there really are people who are really doing the work in real life, not just as like practitioners, but as clients or in the community. There really are people, and they're typically not going off in the comments. Okay. So we're going to move into this last reel, y'all. It is about Black and white dating. I know some people had some things around, you know, comparing to white people. Well, this lady did it. And so we're going to talk about it. I did a reaction reel to it. We are going to talk about this particular issue here, and then we're going to get out of here.
The same way that white people are. From a young age, Black people were not taught the same dating scripts or socialized to date the same way that white people are. From a young age, white people teach their children how to build successful relationships with the opposite sex. They allow their teenagers to have boyfriends because they see dating as a way to build a social skill. They are taught formal dating etiquette.
Y'all, I think she's right. Like, I went to Virginia Tech and it was very white. And the way white kids were dating was distinctly different than how I could compare it to like Atlanta, which is where I moved to after I graduated from Tech. Like, white kids were intentionally preparing to find a husband and a wife in general. I think it was helpful to see and do that in practice with people my age at such a wide scale. But when I was thinking about Virginia Tech, it also made me think about country music because I listen to a lot of country music at Tech. And I'm thinking about how in country music, it's like you're talking about love, relationships, hard work, marriage, family. And then I think about rap and hip hop, and it's like we're talking about drugs, sex, and murder, things like that. You know, there are so many different social and cultural aspects that help to helps to develop a person. Like, it's not just one or two things, but here's the point. When enough people are affected in a certain direction, you develop community norms, which are basically like the standard way that the group behaves. They become generalities. They're the reasonable expectations of that group based on evidence of what that group generally does. Like, everything is not a stereotype. Some of it is like evidence. There's evidence that a certain group does certain things in general. For the Black community, I believe we have way too many negative norms. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing and shameful, especially considering what so many of our grandparents, great grandparents, and those before them endured for a better life and freedom. I think we have a culture, a current culture, because I don't think this is Black culture. We have a current culture of degeneracy. All right, a deterioration specifically around our morals. And some people seem determined to go down with the ship or protect and defend that. And we cannot save these people because literally they do not want to be saved. But others, I think we should keep speaking up. I think we should protect what's important. And although we may sound like the minority, I do believe it's better to enter through the narrow gate than to go down the broad road leading to destruction.
Okay, so that was something I know you had some different ideas about kind of where I know you wanted to attribute this to like degeneracy. Tell me about like kind of what your perception is.
Yeah, so I already know that I'm not going to escape the we're blaming everything on white people allegations, but you know what? Stuff be white people fault. And I don't know how to help y'all with that, okay? Statistically, historically, stuff be white people's fault. Point blank, period. So I'm going to say that I felt like in this video, it was unfair to compare white culture as, positive standard, but Black culture as degenerate, standard wise. And I just don't think that that's fair. It's not fair because white people sing country music and will still vote against your rights. White people will scream Jesus and kidnap immigrants off the street. So for me, and I come from a very pro-Black, as much as I love Black women, I am pro-Black, period. Like Issa said, I'm rooting for everybody Black. Even if you don't care for me, I'm advocating for you if you exist in Black skin. So for me, I felt like that was an unfair characterization of the experience and the phenomenon that she was highlighting in the video. And, I kind of touched on this before, but in that video, the most important piece is that we are not socialized for relationships in a healthy way. And that is a problem in the Black community. And it's not just because of the influence of white culture and things like that. It is because we are so scared. I just did a video, a YouTube with Benny's Take. For those of y'all who didn't think that I was full of ish, I suggest you watch that video specifically for Black women and their experience, Christian Black women, and how they need to step up to the plate and take more ownership of the dating market. But that comment is throwing me off. I purposely turned it off. But yeah, I think that our issue within the Black community, especially the Black religious community, which is where a lot of my experience comes from, we are so scared to do the wrong thing. We're scared of, girls getting pregnant. We're scared of people just having sexual experiences and connecting in general, but we want more people to get married, but we don't do the social systemic work. And I mean like intrasystem, not systemic, capital S, but we don't create structures and systems for Black people to be mentored, to meet, to connect, and to ultimately get married and have healthy families. And I think that is because of our fear and our lack of education. We can't be taught what we're not taught. And I don't think that has to do with Black music. I don't think that Black music is a reflection of Black culture as a whole, or hip hop rather. R&B and hip hop is a reflection of Black folks as a whole. And I don't think that, like, when we're even talking about the history of hip hop, we can talk about what it's become, but just be like, what hip hop represented was actually a space for Black men to get out their social, political, and economic angst against what they were experiencing in the 80s, right? And so, or babe, 80s, he's like so tuned in. But anyways, that's how hip hop started. Now, has it evolved to City Girls and all this kind of stuff? Yes, but the number one purveyor and purchaser of Black music is white people. So they're listening to the same music, but they still have different outcomes. And it doesn't have to do with the degeneracy of Black people. It's the lack of socio-emotional learning and education within our community and our fears of us doing the wrong thing, even though the wrong things are happening anyway.
Okay, well said. I mean, I really want to see the numbers about white people like consuming this media more. I'd like to see it.
Man, this is qualitative. I'll see if I can find it. This is qualitative, but I will say I went to my undergraduate was Valdosta State University. It's as country as it sounds in South Georgia. And them frat boys and them big trucks were the ones bopping Future and all that carrying on. But I will find the information.
Okay, I appreciate that. I definitely acknowledge that country music talks about things too, drinking, sex, things like that. I definitely don't think, and now again, we're talking about qualitative. We're not talking about a research article right now. I definitely don't think it's to the degree or to the depth of what we hear in rap and hip hop. I just don't. I guess people just have different perceptions of this, and that's totally fine. I do think that, and I've been on this for a long time, so I really think that what we consume, not just what we eat, but what we watch, what we listen to, affects us. And we do have studies to show that. I mean, we could pull those as well, that show like how things affect our subconscious mind, which I know is responsible for the majority of our behaviors. And so things that we might be listening to or viewing even passively have an impact on our brains. And so I definitely think it has an impact. Now, whether it is like, to what extent it's affecting behaviors and culture is something that I have not seen a research article that I don't even know how they could measure that. I mean, that would be an extraordinarily difficult study to try to do and then replicate and do everything you need to do to have a research study about that. So I'm truly just making a what I would call like a good guess, an intuitive guess, I would say, around like, understanding what kind of messages are coming through TVs, phones, and whatever that are about the kind of things that I mentioned and how that might be impacting people's behavior.
I don't completely disagree with that. I think that it has an impact, but I also think, and I will find the information, but I also think that like I said, I'll find the numbers. If my statistics, my information is correct, not only are white people the most, the biggest consumers of hip hop, they also fund it. And so the people that are
Mm-hmm.
being brought to the forefront, like Sexy Red, right? Which I'm not, again, as much as I'm like, leave Black people alone, let them have their music. I also side eye what comes out, right? Because somebody is funding that. A vast majority of music execs are white, and they are pumping a lot of ideology into our system and our stream, and we follow along, right? Because marketing is effective. But do I think that hip hop inherently is problematic and is the reason why the Black community can't get married and succeed? No, I don't. And if it were, more men listen to hip hop than women. So then who would be more impacted?
Yeah, I don't think I tied this one to marriage and family, although yeah, just kind of like
Well, we were talking
general
about socialization
cultural,
and relationships.
yeah, yeah, general like kind of like behaviors in society that of course then could spill over into relationships. So I think you get open conversation. I mean, I think people just have different perspectives. To me, it's definitely not about right or wrong. I know I have taken like a lot harder of a line on media than most people that I know. So I definitely could say that. I think that I can definitely see how I could over index on the influence of media, because that's something that I've had like pretty strong ideas about. I don't blame where Black people are in general, okay, on the music. I don't blame it. I don't think that it's helping either. I don't think it's helping.
I
Um,
don't have a dog in that fight, so I'm okay with. Do I think that it's helping? No, I
mhm,
don't think that it's a key helper either at all, and I don't know that it's intended to be. Just like I don't
mhm,
think country music is love making music inherently, and
mhm,
is making people fall in love everywhere. Side note, when I, and I don't know a ton of them, so this is beyond qualitative. This is just what I have observed
mhm,
on social media. White women are actually also struggling in the dating market right now, and they're
yeah,
getting their marriage rates, their marriage age, excuse me, is getting higher. So what we're
mhm,
talking about is specific. There are specific issues within the Black community that are leading to our statistics, but there is a phenomenon happening in America. Our birth rates
true.
are low, our marriage rates are stagnating. And I think if we were to have this conversation in 5 years, we're going to be looking at something that is unrecognizable.
Mhm,
But again, I can't, and I know that's not the topic of conversation, but we cannot look at this as simply interpersonal issue. There are so many systemic levels at play, and whether
mhm,
you want to agree with it or not, we're all at the intersection and cross section of some of those things. Even if you are, even if you are doing okay in the dating market, if you're unmarried, if you're married but don't have a wealth heavy household and are struggling to make ends meet, like we're all intersecting with some of these systemic issues in some way, shape, or form.
you're right. So I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate all your time, Vernique. I appreciate the patience that you've had as you experienced YouTube chat. I appreciate your willingness to share all that you do know, and your willingness to acknowledge what you don't know. I think that's so important too, that we can just say like, we don't know like some of these things, and maybe we need to look some things up. So I appreciate that. I think that this has been I think this has been a well balanced discussion. But I would like to know what's your experience been during our time together.
First of all, you have been fine. I appreciate the forum. You pushed back on me a little bit, which is what we were here for, and that's fine. I am not usually in spaces like this because I want to be in spaces that are ready and willing to learn. And I hope, and I actually took what you said to heart, as far as like the people who are most impacted are usually not the ones commenting. And I do
Mhm.
appreciate that insight. And I'm taking that as wisdom because I'm not, like I said, I'm not normally in this spaces. I don't go live a lot. I stopped going live a few years ago. My forward publicist and I've had other mentors tell me I need to get on it, but I like being in spaces where people want to learn. And so I facilitate those places I bring people off of social media to learn. I'm running a course called Good Girl Rehab to talk about reprogramming women's thoughts and perspectives on love, dating, and even religion. So this was difficult. I am a little bit of a sensitive girly. And I mean, I didn't get emotional, but I like to engage with spaces that that are more gracious. And I don't know how to, that's not the word that I'm looking for, but where like the understanding is we're all here because we care about the same thing. So that part was difficult for me. I'm just being vulnerable and honest. But overall, I think that this was a good stretching experience as an intellectual and expert in my field, in my space. To kind of sharpen my iron and make sure that, I have an answer for why I do what I do. So thank you for the invite.
That's good. I really appreciate you sharing that. I definitely think when I go into, I think people, and you included, are gonna see a difference in my content, or the people who follow my content going forward, because what's happened in the last like 8 months is I put a lot of particular type of content out, and it has drawn people who I know don't have the same goals as I do. I know that. I know there are people in this comment that the people that are the spiciest ones don't have the same goals truly of like marriage and family. Like a lot of them don't have the same goals of marriage and family. That's real, y'all. And I know that. Some do and some don't, because I haven't made it abundantly clear, like about about things. We gotta have conversations about marriage formation. We're having conversations about what does it look like to actually develop healthy relationships, including those emotional attachments between men and women, things like that. What does it look like to build with another person? Everyone who is attracted to my content on Black women being overweight are not, but everyone that likes that is not about to like what's coming up. I know that. And unfortunately, because of the kind of content that I've put out, although I do stand on the fact that it's true, I wouldn't put it out if it wasn't true, and if I didn't really believe in what I was saying and the importance as it relates to marriage, family, health, and wellness. But there's more coming that's going to shed some people away, because some people want me to be super red pill. Some people want me to be a woman in the manosphere. People really want me to be Kevin Samuels. There are some people who really want that.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that in your comments.
And I know there are other people who see beyond that. They see what's really going on. But because of where the arc of, and where I'm at in the arc right now, I'm getting a lot of people who don't have the same values, but who like when I talk about Black women in a particular way or highlighting certain things. And so it bothers me that those kinds of people, I mean, it's expected, right? I get it. I understand the space that we're in. It bothers me that they come on doing wild stuff and saying things even to you. And we've seen the comment section tonight. So I want to acknowledge all of that. And I think that it's going to be different going forward, because there are people who think that they like me now who aren't going to like me in a couple of months, because I like women. I love women. I like men and love men and want everybody to be together in healthy, happy relationships. And that requires some equity. So I want to acknowledge all that, and we're going to see what happens.
We are.
Yes. So
I appreciate that.
I would love to have you back sometime. I think we talked about systemic issues. I think having a conversation about solutions going forward, having a more like forward focused conversation could be really helpful and productive, and I think is largely missing in this space. So I'll definitely be in contact with you about that after we decompress from this one.
Yeah, agreed. And I just want to say, like, even in support of you, in my own little way, I guess, like, I think misandry is dumb. I think that doesn't help the problem, right? Like, I think when women in general turn to anger and bitterness in order to pacify themselves, that's highly, like, that doesn't solve the issue either, in the same way that the red pill and the manosphere doesn't solve the issue either. We can't just be mad at each other and then harden ourselves and being like, you're the problem, and until you fix you. No, like that doesn't get us anywhere. And for those of us who want real solutions, and I would love to come back and talk about that from both sides, I think that it is like that is what it takes in order for us to improve towards a better future for Black people as a whole.
Well said. We'll end right there. Thank you so much, Vernique. Thank you, chat. Okay, y'all help make it what it is. I hope y'all have a good night, and we will see you very soon. Night, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.